we've done. Let me see here. Well,
Okay,
I'm host.
everybody, how's it going?
I can't put myself into a breakout room. Willie, let me just give you a call.
Sure.
I'll give you a call.
Mike, this one's a newer version than yours. Hey, everybody.
Hey guys. Okay, let's get going here. Everybody, welcome Willie. He is a past long time, well, I guess for about a year, member who's thumping at us here again a little bit. And Scott, you've been on a couple of the meetings since you made your great return from the dead, like Lazarus returning. Or is that the Phoenix from the fire or whatever it was? I think maybe it was both, if I remember correctly. Scott, you've had some pretty good off to the races moments already this month. Give everybody an update.
Okay, sure. Yeah. So when I came back from the Colorado meeting, I was fired up. And as I was saying last week, we just, I'm in a really good location. So I have the blessing of not having to market all the time, and I still get a decent amount of traffic flow. But I decided to market, so we did a lot of marketing. We did a movie event, running Facebook ads. We did a buddy event. And so we got a lot of big boost of traffic for June. My goal, I came home from your event and just set a goal for 100 students in June, July, in 90 days, June, July, and August. And then I changed, I raised my prices. I was at 297, so I bumped it up to 347. And then I was, as I was saying last week, Master Oliver, you weren't here, but I went over some old notes that I took of you and Grandmaster Smith and Master Moody about just sales and stuff like that. And I studied that. So I did all those things. And then I've signed up 34 students in 20 days.
Okay, you're on track.
Yeah. Yeah, you're right. You're right on track to add 100. That's for sure.
Yeah.
Where did most of the traffic come from?
Buddy event was big. We haven't had one of those ever. So my wife made some buddy passes. We handed them out, and a lot of our students are on vacation, but still they're still trickling in too. Buddy events, Facebook is doing well for us. The movie event, we're still rolling those in, but that was probably the least of the three. And then we still get a decent amount of organic traffic. So, yeah, I think it's like that. I don't have actual numbers yet for the month, but that's where we're at as a running total anyway.
I think that's an important thing to mention, that you did a bunch of stuff. The movie event, for a lot of people, that's their home run. But in your case, it wasn't a home run. But because you had enough stuff going, that's what the Parthenon effect is. So everybody hear that. Movie events are often big home runs, and they probably will next time. But if you have enough stuff, it works. If you only depend on one thing, then that's when you get in trouble.
Yeah,
right.
well, this month on the movies, now that you mentioned it, is kind of interesting. Disney, in my opinion, since they got rid of God, what's his name, John Lasseter, they have not been hitting home runs with Pixar movies, and so the Pixar movie that came out this weekend had a disappointing opening. That's Elementals. And then The Flash had a projected opening of about 80 million. In fact, did about 55 million. So that had a little bit of a disappointing opening. But Spider-Man is kicking ass. And then there's something else that's still out at the theaters. Is it Guardians of the
Galaxy.
Guardians, Little Mermaid, and Little Mermaid's another example. Disney's not having a great result with converting animated to live action in most cases.
Flash is still out.
Yeah, you mentioned.
What I just said is this weekend Flash debuted and Elementals debuted. Flash was projected to do 80 million, in fact, did about 55 million. Elementals, has been so far disappointing numbers. I forget what it debuted at, but 25, 30 million, something like that. But what was interesting at the theaters right now is the combination of Little Mermaid still running, Spider-Man, which is beating expectations, is still running. So you have The Flash, you have Elementals, you have Spider-Man, Guardians is still out there, and you have Little Mermaid. So you do have quite a range of movies, all of them that are in the wheelhouse of being useful for us. And then, if I'm not mistaken, next weekend is when the next Raiders of the Lost Ark, or maybe it's the weekend after that, but the next Raiders movie is coming out as well. Yeah, so there wasn't a movie that was the big Marvel 120 million. It wasn't a Mario Brothers version of that. On the other hand, the traffic in the theaters, given all of the different things going on, was likely in most cases still pretty good. So
Can I ask a question
Go
to
ahead.
people that have done the movie theaters? Because I did the movie theater this weekend.
Mhm.
Friday night was painfully slow, but Saturday was pretty productive. And I didn't do Sunday because it was Father's Day, and my family was pissed at me for having thought of signed up for that. So is there any benefit of doing like more weekends? And keep in mind that, so Manala's rock star, but she's going out of town for 2 months. So I'm doing most of these. So I don't mind doing a Saturday, but for my own sanity, doing a 3-day weekend blitz every time is going to be just
Well, one
much, and then I'm
one day is one day is better than no days, but 2 days is better than 1 day, and 3 days is better than 2 days. So you do what you can.
yeah.
okay.
Well,
So that's what I was thinking. If I hit,
Let me answer that in a different way. Yeah.
sure.
Is your biggest job is develop your leadership team, develop your support staff, develop people who are there to help you, so that it's not you personally out there. That's where your biggest need and growth point is for the school, right? Is if it were me and it's Guardians of the Galaxy or Spider-Man, I'd be there Thursday night, I'd be there Friday night, I'd be there Saturday, I'd be there Sunday. But when I say I don't mean I'd be there for any of it. If at all possible, I mean there'd be a booth set up and it'd be properly staffed and be properly orchestrated. For Mile High Karate I mean, this goes back to the 80s. We were oftentimes had 13 booths going on the same weekend, right? 13 different locations. But you gotta staff it up. You've got to develop the support team, whether it's volunteers or part-timers or other full-timers, so it doesn't have to be you. And with different movies, you're going to see things go differently, but you'll see something like a Spider-Man, a Guardians, the big blockbuster Avengers movies. Thursday night was huge, right? Again, depending upon the theater and so forth. And my guess is, I mean, I wasn't out I did go to actually the Elementals on Father's Day, but and it by the way was fairly busy, but depending upon the theater and the movie, it's going to depend upon whether Thursday night, Friday night, or Sunday are the busier times. But my answer is you've got to develop that leadership staff. You've got to develop that crew. To the extent that you don't have it right now, you do what you can do, but that's got to be your highest priority.
And I think you can train with the scripts that we have. I mean, I have like 14-year-olds that kick butt at it, do 95%, 98% appointment rates.
Yeah.
I mean, I always ask them what their numbers are, and they give me their leads and appointments, and it should be like 98% of the leads or appointments. And sometimes it's 100%. And I usually question them on that. Like, are you giving me the right numbers? You mean you got everybody to set an appointment? And the answer is yes, in a lot of cases. So you don't have to have, your own replicas for these types of processes. It's not hard to get people to be able to do that part of it.
Yeah, absolutely. Hey, Willie, I'm going to ask your question from earlier for you. We have on the meeting right now Jason, who faded out and then came back with going strong. Jason, your gross got down to what and is now what?
So yeah, the gross got down to 16,000 for the month in whenever that was. When was that? That was January 2021, right? Mm-hmm. And then now we're basically in the 90s now.
Yeah, yeah. And then Amanda had faded out and then made a roaring comeback. There's Amanda. What's your recent numbers look like? Where did it bottom out? Where are you at this month?
We last summer we were hitting we bottomed out at around 62 a month, and then we're back up pushing the high 70s, some 80s. So looking forward to a good summer, and
Yeah.
looking forward to breaking 1 million this year.
Yeah, excellent, excellent. And Krista, you and Melissa had been gone a long time, and then came back into the loop. Tell us about your great comeback. Where were you at when you came back, and where are you guys at now?
We had gotten down to 16,000 during the pandemic, and then came back to you. We were with you a long time ago. Yeah, you're right.
Long time ago.
Yeah, long
Yeah,
time.
I was telling people when Jada was 3 years old, and I was just out in your neck of the woods for her graduation from college.
Yeah, we were still on teleconferences back then.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Oh,
And
wow.
now, last year we averaged 70 a month.
Excellent, excellent. And you had a few months that were in the mid 80s, haven't you?
Yes, sir. Yeah, we
Yeah,
had
yeah.
a couple of months in the mid 80s.
Good. And then Scott, you just made a roaring comeback. Your first time back was the meeting just recently.
Yeah. When I came back to the meeting, our gross was in like 71, 72, and now we're 85. So
Yeah.
I'm happy.
And when you left, you were in
You
the
say 85,
90s.
when you
Yeah.
say 85, that's half the month too, right?
Well, that's our projected growth gross for home.
Okay.
85,000. Yeah.
Yeah.
By the way, which we've never been that high before. We've been in the 70s, floating the 70s before.
Yeah.
But yeah. So
Well, Willie's question to me was, and I'll throw it out at you guys, is I know all the stuff you guys teach. What's new? Why should I be involved? Scott, what would your answer be?
one of the things that I was realizing is I get a lot, everybody does better with a coach, like someone just kind of encouraging you. And so I get a lot of inspiration from talking to all the school owners here, and just motivation to do better when people are watching, so to speak. You know what I mean? When I feel like it's a certain amount of accountability. So I would say if someone thinks that they know everything, I've never felt that way after 5 years of being with you guys. But if they do, I suppose the next question would be have you implemented everything?
Mhm. Yeah. Well, you know what the irony is on that one, Scott, is the biggest excuse that people give for leaving is you don't need to teach me anymore. I haven't implemented the stuff that you've taught. And so they leave to go in isolation, implement stuff. Talk about that.
Well, that was me. So I thought I knew everything too. And I didn't, but I knew a lot, I guess. But nevertheless, like I just said, I realize now that just being around all you guys is very inspirational. So it's in the mind, it doesn't do any good until you take action. So I feel more motivated than ever as far as taking action goes. So that's been the biggest thing for me. Of course, I'm learning more too. Don't get me wrong, but it's just I'm doing things that I know I should have done all along because I'm being inspired and motivated by all you guys.
Yeah.
And clarify me again, how many enrollments this month you have already?
34.
Wow.
Yeah. Just by
Got 10 days to go still.
well, and frankly, just by moving back towards the Parthenon of marketing rather than relying on one or two things. Right. Oftentimes it really comes down to just brain dead silly is just do more stuff, throw more against the wall, and all of a sudden there's synergy and it all starts to work. And you'll hit some home runs.
Let me jump in, Master Oliver, because this will be helpful to some people.
Yeah.
What was really helpful to me that just sticks out of my mind from the last meeting was Jason, all the people that got up. And, we did that exercise with the numbers. I'm embarrassed to say I've never done that before, but to see the value of a lead and everybody, no matter how much they were grossing, how much margin there was, you know what I mean, per lead.
Oh, yeah.
So it was, the answer to everybody was more marketing is going to win. I thought, man, it's almost like, how can you lose when you look at the ROI? So that, and we did it for like, seems like a day, you know what I mean? So it just really sticks out in my mind, and it's still there as I come back.
Yeah, and you know, the exciting thing was when you do that is breaking down, you know, I mean, we're moving towards having a lifetime value of saying 7,000 per student. And, you know, most people weren't quite there yet, right? I think there was, I forget what the low was, but maybe it was 5,000, and, you know, and it was kind of up from there. I mean, if anybody has better notes, let me know. But as you said, Scott, an awful lot of people were, you know, spending $200 or $300 to get an enrollment and making 5,000, 6,000, moving towards 7,000 per new student. But when you back it down to what the cost per intro was, the cost per appointment was, the cost per lead was, is an awful lot of times we were paying what, $40 for lead, and the lead was worth $700, $800, $900. And you know, that's the margin you're talking about.
And the other thing, Master Oliver, I think that is so important for the members to remember, is that during this meeting, there's so many moving parts to running your school. It's hard to keep your eye on every one of them. But when you come on the meeting and then you hear somebody talking about something and you go, oh shit, I was supposed to do that too, and I forgot all about that, or I was going to do that, or, you know, it's that constant hearing from other people and what they're doing. And it's the synergy that is pulled from a team that has a common goal, and that's to help each other and improve their numbers.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. The Paul, I didn't expect to see you. Have you already had your surgery?
Monday,
Oh, it's coming up Monday. I'm sorry.
Monday. So I'm preparing now. So
I had in my head that it was this week. So
yeah, so I've been in and out, but it's it's one of those things that's just got to be done.
It's
Yeah.
it's a facelift, right?
Yeah, I'm gonna get all this pulled back. You know,
I
next
think
time you see me, I won't be able. My face won't move.
yeah, but Paul, I would say all the affluence is looking good on you. Paul, one of the examples I was using for Willie earlier is your staffing development. And of course, with two schools, the thing I love to tease you about is being in the Virgin Island with 3 and or 4 beautiful women. You always want me to explain that one of them is the wife and the other are daughters.
Correct.
But,
Thank you.
Which usually I prefer not to explain, just leave them guessing. But
Yeah, you know, I kind of like the sound of that in the beginning too.
yeah. You know, but that's kind of like the new Sylvester Stallone's show, you know, him and his 3 beautiful daughters. But tell us about how your staffing is coming. It was coming up on a back surgery. You know, that we've had people who that was really a crisis for, because things weren't going to run without them present every day. But you've got things in really good stead. Tell us about that.
Yeah, no, I'm blessed. I have my 2 managers here in front of me right now, and no, I think it's I'm a lucky guy. I mean, we've been training forever. They've been with me forever. You know, so it's the last thing, and it probably sounds crazy. It's the last thing I worry about is the schools.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, they're in great hands, and you know, like I said, I'm blessed. So, but
And to give everybody, I'm sorry, just to give everybody the full picture of it, I can remember when I first came up to your school that maybe the staff wasn't completely all on board. They had a little resistance to some of the changes that you wanted to make.
yeah, there was a little pushback. There was a little pushback, but they're not the case now.
So you guys that have staff that are giving you a little resistance, you know, that's to let you know that there is hope. They, you know, if you explain it properly, and of course that's the advantage Master Paul, of having two schools is when one school does it, the other school doesn't have an excuse not to, you know?
That's, yeah, there's a good synergy between the guys and the school. So everybody is kind of like, they work together. So it's a total family kind of, I guess synergy is probably the best word. Everybody works together. So if one school is down, they kind of push each other and pump each other up. So it's a good marriage.
And, you know, just for a suggestion, you might be doing it already. One of the things I did when I had the multi-schools was that to make sure that everybody was focused not just on their own growth, but everybody else's, is they were getting a bonus for their school, what it did. But if the combined of the school reached a certain number, they all shared in an extra bonus too. And then
Yes.
this made them actually hold each other accountable. Hey, you're going to screw up our numbers here. I want to get that extra bonus for the combined school growth. Come on, guys. What do we need to help you with?
Yeah, I did a couple of pay scales that way. One of them, I think, went a little bit too far into socialism, is it was bonusing, you know, getting about half their pay on the overall gross. And that had a negative impact, because you're always going to have somebody who's not carrying their weight as the organization gets bigger. But you're at a nice size where you got them both clicking along pretty well. What kind of gross did you end up with last month, Paul?
It was like 138 between the two. It was 138.5.
Okay. And how's May looking? Or where's you in June? That was May. How's June?
That was May, right? Yeah, that was
yeah.
May. They're on par. They're on par for meeting their the goal. The high goal is 150. Low goal is 135. So like right now we're on track for 135.
Okay, good. And hey, welcome Travis. Also coming from muggy Houston. I've heard you guys are what, 101 degrees with 101% humidity this week.
Yeah, and like 140 heat index.
Oh, God.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Yeah. All I can say is better you than me on that one. That's when I appreciate the 8,000 foot elevation in Colorado. My parents are Tulsa. I think 200,000 people in Tulsa are without power for was projected to be the entire week. So my
Wow.
90-ish-year-old parents are completely without power so far for the week.
Wow.
Not a good situation. It's not quite as hot as it is in Houston there, but still not a good situation.
Was that a storm? What happened to the power?
It was a windstorm. Apparently, they get ice and wind and tornadoes, you know, and apparently it was a windstorm, and it blew branches down on the power lines, knocked out the power lines. But you know, 200,000 people out of, you know, that's about 20% of the population without power is a lot of people.
Yeah, that's a lot. We had a storm come through with no warning about 3 to 4 weeks ago, and it was like 45, 50 mile per hour winds with 70-mile gusts. Like it was stronger than any of the hurricanes we've had, just in one little area. And
Yeah, pretty crazy. Anyway, hey, before we go any further, anybody have any urgent pending questions?
I do.
Go ahead. Go ahead, Sebastian.
Go ahead. Oh, ladies first. No matter.
I have.
Oh, Krista, go ahead.
I have a question about paying staff. I actually just hired a program director, and I'm losing my instructor, so I'm going to have to hire another instructor too. How would you recommend? Do you just pay the program director a percentage of the profits? How do you recommend to do pay scales?
Yeah, that's a really good question. My approach, and this is what I'll tell you to begin with, is an absentee owner structure, right? And you aren't really an absentee owner because you're still there as branch manager. But I always looked at the pay scale as an absentee owner, is I was looking for 25% of the gross to be payroll. And of that 25% of the gross, 12% was branch manager, which arguably is you. 10% was the head instructor or the program director, whatever the other full-time person was. and then 3% was left over for part-timers. And that was good up to more or less 300 active students. When we went over 300 active students, I had 3 full-timers in there. And then the percentages were 10%, 7%, 7%, with, again, very little left over for part-timers. But frankly, over 300 active was harder to keep the payroll at the target number, right? The part-time payroll tended to inflate a little bit and all those other things. That's why there really is kind of a sweet spot oftentimes where 300 active students at 400 average revenue per student is a $120,000 a month school with 50-60% net, with the staff all getting highly compensated is pretty much a sweet spot in my perspective.
Yeah, and the advantage of that higher over the 300 and that over 100,000 gross is that percentage is a lot more dollars. So yeah, they can get less percentage divided out among all 3 of them and still be making more than maybe the 2 were, even at the higher percentage at the lower active count.
I didn't quite follow that statement, Master Smith. You're saying the 2 could make more than the 3? Is that what you're saying?
No.
I didn't catch what you're saying.
Yeah, I think everybody else caught it, but I'll say it again. Over 300, when the gross is over 100,000, a smaller percentage is more dollars than when you're under 300 and only 2 people are getting a higher percentage. Their actual dollars they're getting is actually less than at the lower percentage when they're making more.
Right. And of course, there's a break point, right? So the tough part is in the transition. But Krista, what you want to do is never have a full-timer who's not highly incented for results, right? So I am not a fan generally of people who are just on hourly. I'm not a fan generally of part-timers, although the truth is, many times I've filled gaps and filled, the staff with part-timers, if nothing else as a transition to get where you had good full-timers. But with full-timers, I don't want anybody who is mentally clocking in and clocking out, right? I want them all on the same page. We're working hard to do external marketing, internal marketing for retention, for renewals and so forth. And there's any number of ways to build that. What I will tell you is when people build bonus systems that are complicated, they're counterproductive. And so, I've seen schools where you get, X bonus for this much retail, and you get X bonus for this many people go to this event, and you get this bonus if we do X number of enrollments, you get this bonus if we go over that. Anything that's complicated that they can't kind of compute in their head becomes counterproductive. And that doesn't mean you can't have more than one thing that you're incentivizing them on. I've oftentimes built bonus structures for where the billing check was, right? So when we hit this threshold, there's a bonus. When we hit this threshold, there's a bonus. When we hit this threshold, there's a bonus. You're getting X percentage of the gross, but if our dropout rate falls to this percent, there's a bonus on top of it, right? So things to incentivize them breaking a new barrier. I would oftentimes have the incentive of, let's get to 300 active students and make that a big deal. And, on incremental steps towards that, or 500 students, there's a bonus, or hit a new gross plateau and there's a bonus. But generally, if I know that we did 5,000 today and I'm going to get 500 of it, I'm more incentivized and more excited than if there's a complicated pay structure that I can't figure out in my head as the day is going.
One other thing, Master Oliver, I think they should consider is that if you have somebody that's been with you for a long time and they're getting a percentage of the gross, and let's say from when they started to where they are now, the gross has gone up a whole bunch. Well, somebody new coming in isn't going to start at that same commission of that total of the school. what I would start them on is a base salary, which would be, say, the last 6 months average gross. And then their commission would be whatever they're going to help the school grow from there, would be where their extra commission would come from. In other words, they earned that extra money. They hadn't earned that other money that was already there, but they're going to get a base salary kind of based on that. You follow me?
Yeah, and said a different way, I mean, you can always have them at a starting pay scale, and then when they hit certain training benchmarks, the next level's kicked in, saying the same thing that Master Smith is saying. When we did quick start training, they hit a bump in their percentages and their and everything else when they actually tested for and were certified for their black belt, for instance. So they really weren't considered, full-time, full bore staff member until they had passed that level of certification, as an example. And that first 90 days was always considered a training period anyway. Does that answer your question, Krista? I mean, we can get, this could be 3-day conversation, but.
Yes, sir. That's helpful. Thank you.
Yeah. But to the greatest extent possible, make sure you always have people in line with the way that you're thinking about things. And when you say a percentage of the profits, some people have tried to do a profit sharing, which, literally they were giving them a percentage of the net rather than a percentage of the gross. And in our case, I've never seen that work out particularly well, mostly because the staff that you're going to hire in practical terms have little or no control over any of the expenses, right? Maybe they can turn down the thermostat and keep the electric bill, down by $100 a month or something. But generally, they don't have much impact on the rent. They don't have much impact on anything else. The only time I've seen that be at all productive is on, again, fully absentee operated locations where, I could say to the branch manager, you have 25% of the gross. This is what Bill Clark did for years. You have 25% of the gross to work with, which I would recommend. You have a full-timer, you're getting 10%, a couple part-timers, but your staffing is up to you. And let them make those decisions. In practical terms, what I mostly did is I just told them, we have 25% of the gross to work with. So anytime you talk to me about a raise, I'm going to talk to you about how to get the revenue up. We're not going to increase base salaries. We're going to increase the revenue so that your income goes up.
The only exception to that, Master Oliver, that I would say is if it's a partnership, it's like a literal partnership agreement. And then you have you're 51 and they're 49% owners. And then, then that's a little more complicated answer, but that's not our question today. But then there is a profit relationship.
Correct. Yeah. And then typically they're maybe getting something off the top and then they're getting a percentage of the bottom line.
Yeah. And then you have to they have to learn to wear two hats. One is the manager and then one is the owner. And it's really important to keep those distinct, but we could spend, that's like a whole separate meeting on how to do that. Yeah. If you're ever in that situation where you're literally going to do that, then that's a separate conversation.
Yeah. And as a side note, the only problem with those things is when they have a bad month, they want to be acting like an employee. And when they have a good month, they want to be acting like an owner. That tends to be human nature.
You said that to me one time, sir. If everything goes well, it's because of them. If everything goes bad, it's because of you.
Yes. Yeah.
That's the best example.
That is unfortunately accurate in many cases.
Yep.
Okay. So Krista, hopefully we've answered your question.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Okay. Amanda, let me put that same question.
Sebastian was next.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Sebastian.
Good job, Master Smith.
I have a very simple question, I believe. I started really strong this month, and yesterday I had about 10 parent-teacher conferences where enrollment and renewals, and it did not go great yesterday. Probably I was very disappointed, but I got the same answer for everybody, and I know what I'm not doing. But I wanted to hear you tell it to me. No, it's the classic. I'm not having both parents for the enrollment. I gotta talk to my wife, I gotta talk to my husband type of situation. And then they don't, the mom or dad do a very poor sell job. They just hear numbers and they don't get the feeling of the value of what we even did. So when you do an orientation class, besides sending them the video, which I should have and I don't, what verbiage do you use for that? How do you express that for enrollment and further training? We want them, the family, to be there. I mean, what would this makes the most sense? How would you? That's my question. Sorry.
Okay, that was kind of a muddled question. Are you talking about at an enrollment or at a renewal?
An enrollment.
Okay. And so what you ended up with is several conferences with only one parent there,
Yes, sir.
and they didn't go well.
No. That sucks. No, sorry, I had a bunch. I did not go. Sorry. I had the register ready, man.
Okay, and the question was?
It's just what a better verbiage on what to tell the parents and how is it important,
Both
for them
parents
to
there?
both of them. Yeah, not just for the process of enrollment, but I would say, what is it that you say? Who's going to be responsible for this? Is that how you verb it when you talk to people?
No. Well, okay. Well, I mean, the answer to your question is don't do enrollment conferences with one parent there, right? And then the rest of the conversation is how do you get both parents there, right? And an awful lot of times you end up with, I don't know what percentage, but you do end up with, they're divorced and mom and dad live in separate households and sometimes have a mediocre working relationship, right? So you have that issue that goes on. The other issue often that you have is, especially perhaps in summer, is, one travels for work, has a different work schedule. The two of them have different schedules and so forth. But I mean, the language during the introductory process is pretty straightforward. We require both parents to be here. And I really could leave it at that, right? We require both parents to be here, to do the evaluation and to review the progress on the program and to do the enrollment. But, it's the we require part, not we'd like to have, not it would be useful if, not you really should, but we require, right? And then the other question, which I think you're alluding to, is there anybody else who is going to be in any way responsible for transportation, finances, or supporting Billy, Susie, whatever in the program, right? And then in that case, most of the time, what you're probing for is the grandmother who's paying, or again, I've had all different situations, personally, but oftentimes you need the wife and the stepfather and the husband and the stepmother, or the wife and her new girlfriend and the husband and the new whatever. But oftentimes there's, some level of complication of all the people you need there. But most often what it is the complication is the mother brings the kid down and you're trying to get the father there. And then the next level of complication, especially at the lower socioeconomic levels, are I need grandma there because grandma's paying for this or something like that.
Can I clarify that a little bit?
Yeah, Jason was going to say something.
Yes.
Okay.
So what we ask, and it's mom or dad, whoever brings them, right? If it's mom, I'm going to say, so remind me, what's the family dynamic? Is it you? Is it his dad, grandma, grandpa? Who's involved with him weekly? Right? And that way you're not assuming that they're married, they're not married, they're gay, whatever. It's you, it's, if it's dad, it's, okay, well, who is it? Is it you? Is it his mom, grandma, grandpa? Who's involved weekly? And then we get that. And then we say, okay, so we require both parents because kids will act different from one parent than with the other. So I need to have both of you there for this. Once we do that, then it doesn't matter if one of you brings them or you drop them off or you're both there or whatever, but we need at least both of you there, right? And then if they have trouble with, well, timing is,
Sorry, kick me.
do Zoom meeting, we can do those in the evening or whatever. And that's, last year, I only had 4 out of, I don't know, a lot of conferences. All of them, we got both parents there.
Yeah. Paul or Bruce, I think you were saying that you had quite a few that one parent was on Zoom. Or is it Paul?
I think that was Paul said he
Okay.
did a lot of stuff by Zoom. Yeah.
Yeah, we still do quite a bit by Zoom.
How do we keep confusing you? It's the wrong Paul. It's you do look a little bit like Bruce. So
Both handsome guys, I guess.
I guess that must be it.
They go to the same hairstylist, that's it.
Yeah.
But Paul, how has that been going? What percentage would you say you got one of the parents in by Zoom, and how effective was that?
50 to 70% is both parents on Zoom.
Wow.
We schedule it. There's a lot of times lately, they'll make sure dad gets to a class, but mom has to take the other kids to all the other activities, never get both in the room.
Yeah.
And we don't want it to carry on, so like, okay, when can dad make it? Oh yeah, he'll come Saturday. Okay. Can you come too? No. All right. Why don't we schedule you on Zoom Monday night and sit down with both of you guys, usually after kids go to bed, like we have 8:30 at night, 9 o'clock at night, 8 o'clock at night. We tend to do it so they're not as distracted by the little ones. And then we'll do it. If we have both parents here, we definitely grab them and do the enrollment conference. But yeah, the majority of them we have to do later at night.
Yeah. Well, and that is interesting. That's more than I've heard anybody else doing. But if the closing rates are good and the stick rates are good, that's fantastic. And I would say, we're always looking for some ray of light that came out of the debacle of 2020. But that is one ray of light, is pretty much everybody knows how to use QR codes and they know how to use Zoom. And then we learned how to use Zoom at a very high and effective level, especially in a sales methodology. Is anybody still using Zoom much for classes? Do you have many people who are doing Zoom, or are you doing it all? I haven't seen much of that. We kind of made the assumption maybe that would carry on beyond Zoom and expand the geography and so forth. But I think by the time the schools went back in session, everybody was so sick of, learning by distance that it wasn't attractive at that point. Is that your take on it, Master Moody?
No, we still have Zoom classes. I think the question is, if you offer it, then people will take advantage as a service. So we have people over the summer that are gone for a month and they still attend class with Zoom. So if you offer it, they'll use it. If you don't offer it, they won't use it. It's just how you want to manage it. In our case, I found that our instructors got used to doing it, and so we just never took it away from them. But they can manage the class and they have it fine. If your instructors, we're sort of, when your implementation felt painful to the instructors, like your implementation was, you had a separate instructor running somebody on Zoom, and it felt like a painful implementation, like you had to have another instructor, then it's pretty hard to justify maintaining it. I wouldn't, because we have 1 or 2 people on Zoom maybe in a class, and a class might have nobody on Zoom. But in our case, we just have, it's always an option. Sometimes nobody shows up. Sometimes we'll have a couple of people show up. So like during the summer, it gets used more. On a break, it gets used more. And so we had one family where there was they were sick. Somebody had some sort of infectious. I remember for like 3 or 4 weeks, they had some sort of thing where they couldn't go out with other people. It was an unusual infection, but they kept taking classes because they didn't feel bad. It wasn't COVID, it was something else. So, in our case, we kept it because the system wasn't causing brain damage. Back to the brain damage argument.
Yeah.
So if that's what you can achieve, then it's not a big deal keeping it. But if it's a lot of brain damage, then I would get rid of it too.
Yeah. And you don't want to get it. Go ahead, Matt Smith.
Yeah, I just want to give, if you're finished with that, I want to give Sebastian the second part to his problem. So I think they answered that pretty good for you to how to handle that on the first intro when you're scheduling for that second class, right? Where they're coming into the regular class. I will remind you to, make sure that when you do that and you do ask them, and Jason had some good verbiage as well as a couple others. write down who they say, you know, is it the father, is it the grandparent or whatever? Write that down on their sheet, okay? So that way you know to expect that person coming the next time, right? And then when your intros get there for the second, remember how important it is for those that were having a problem with their show rate. I was suggesting to them to say, our intro special also includes a free uniform this month. So if you could get here 10 or 15 minutes early, besides him testing for his white belt, we can also get him in his new uniform. And so now they're going to get there early. So we've got to meet and greet them. And then when we look at our paper, we see who else was supposed to be there. And then I'll say, oh, was Dad coming later today? And then they might say, well, no, he's not going to be able to make that today. And then make that mental note, because once the classes start, I want them to see Tommy in his uniform, receiving his belt, the instructor saying, congratulations on your first step to your black belt. Remember, a black belt is just a white belt who never quits. And I point to him, I say, you're not going to quit, are you? And they go, no, sir. And then while they're taking the class, I have my program director go by and reschedule everybody for their next class, and then try to get some, I call it thumping the melon, get some verbiage from those parents to see how they liked it. You know, sometimes they're a little, you know, unemotional. So I've got to ask them, you know, leading questions. Were you surprised that Tommy went and did all those things to help around the house without you asking? Because obviously that was one of the requirements to earn his white belt, and he got it, right? And then they'll usually elaborate on that and kind of open up and say, oh yeah, that was, you guys surprised me. When you said that, I said, well, good luck with that. And then he went and did all those things. I was shocked. Well, that tells us that they have already seen that our program works. If they say something, oh, he couldn't stop talking about exciting about earning, get it, you know, can't wait to get his belt and his uniform or whatever. So we want to get the buying temperature. And then I say to the parent, we are going to be going over Tommy's progress evaluation on some of the parents today. So when it's your turn, I'll come and get you. Now, remember, when I first approached him, the first thing I said was, I want to set up your next class. Now, if that parent wasn't there, that I can see on the paper, so-and-so was supposed to be there with the mom, then I say, when I make that next appointment, I say, when's the next time that Dad could come and actually watch the class too? And then you try to schedule that third when Dad can come. Now, Jason has had pretty good luck with the Zoom, but I always think if the other parent hasn't actually seen it, you're going to be at a disadvantage because he's trying to make a decision on something he hasn't seen. So it's hard to establish a value on it. But if I put them in order after I talk to every parent, I then put them in order on who I should talk to first, because I want to talk to the one that I think is the most likely to sign up. I don't want to start with the hardest. I'm going to start with and then when I go get that first parent to talk to, I say, Mrs. Jones, you got a minute? And they start to come in. And then I go to my number 2 person. I say, Mrs. Jones, you're going to be next. I'll come and get you when it's your turn. That way, if the class ends, they don't run out the door. They know that they're waiting to talk to you. And then when I finish with 1 and I go get 2, I say that same thing to the third one. So that way I always have my extra one. And if there's one that skips out before, once the class is over and I didn't get them, I already have them scheduled for their next class. So they know to come back. And it's usually the 4th or 5th one that you're talking to that you miss. And that's the one that you think is the least likely to sign up anyway. So I didn't waste my easy sign up walking out the door. I lost maybe potentially that one that was not such a good, excited about it yet. Okay. Did that make sense, Sebastian? Did you catch all that?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
And again, that verbiage that Master Oliver was using and some of the other members were talking about how they say it, Jason and the others, I think it's very important on that first intro to find out who is going or who is going to be responsible or who will be coming. Because I will tell you, it is a little confusing in today's society with all the different people that could be involved with Tommy's, upbringing.
Yeah, yeah. So Sebastian, how did you finish? How did you finish May?
I finished at about 78 grand.
Okay.
And now I'm pushing on my team I want to be consistent with my 85 grants.
Okay.
I told everybody, I have a couple full-timer. I got more people in my bench that I need, but I am in that mode these days.
Yeah.
So I have more people in my staff and I'm trying to train them. And the first thing we started with marketing and picking up the phone. And we have been doing all that. And Mr. Smith helped us. Everybody's been training like black belts and been setting up appointments for everything. But he came to me yesterday when I had all these appointments that I was the weak link, man. I was the break in the value chain that I didn't enroll all these people. And I got a lot of those. I need to talk to my husband. And I was like, I know better than that. So I just but I wanted to catch him early, or, I want to catch him I want to teach my staff to say something about that before the second class, and that the parents know that the second class, they have to either come or check the buying temperature, because honestly, it's difficult to sell a membership at a high dollar value and commitment if you don't even know their names. So we have trying to just be deeper. And I think those progress checks and evaluations are going to make a difference. I'm going to sit down and say, hey, I want to talk to both of you parents. I'm going to give you the feedback that we as professionals got about your kid and how different options for renewal. But I want to have a conversation with everybody. I know that it's a video.
Yeah, the most important word you heard was Master Oliver saying the word required.
Yeah.
Required.
Yeah.
That's the way we do it.
Yeah, well, and I think everybody thinks usually and we like and whatever is the same, and it's not the same. It's not the same as we require both parents to be there. And I also have that on our information sheet when they come in, it says all it's required for all parents, caregivers, and anyone in charge of transportation, schedule, custody, or finances, attend first lesson. The only reason this is on there is not so we don't say it, but so the staff is forced to have them to say this to them and they initial it. And it's so that it's forced to make the staff bring the conversation up. So again, we're trying to systematize it. So it's on the information sheet again. So the staff, it doesn't have to be you guys, the top dogs doing it. It's so I can have 16-year-olds do it right.
Yeah.
Master Moody, if I could, excuse me, got to ask that question.
Go ahead, Marty.
So since we're talking about parents and stuff, what about little kids? So I've found that many times I'm in the middle of an enrollment conference and all the little kids, the 2-year-olds, 3-year-olds are running around and acting crazy. And it would be much better if they weren't available. Is there a way to get the parents without the little kids so that they can concentrate better?
So
I have an answer for that one, Master Moody, if you don't mind, because in our area, for some reason, we tend to have a bunch of those. I would always have one of my instructor trainees, a female junior, that's 16 or 17, or one of the young men that are 16, 15, 16. And I would have them take them into our practice room and keep them entertained, while we were doing the conference. It's just like having, you could even do it with one of your moms that's with one of your advanced students, somebody to kind of keep an eye on them, kind of like a babysitter for just a short bit.
Okay, great idea. Thank you.
Master Moody, you might have had something else that you were going to say.
Oh, well, thanks. Yeah, sometimes you might be a one-person show and you don't have a room that's separate. That's a great idea if you have that. We, in our system, in the intro that we train the staff on, as soon as they're done with the lesson, they they have coloring sheets that are karate color. You can find them. I mean, there's a bunch of different versions you can find. And they specifically, it's in our script. They grab this box of crayons, it's like this big, and they give it to them, or they suggest if the kid, likes to have an iPad or an iPhone, the parent give them the iPhone. Prefer the parent give them the iPhone too nowadays, because then the parent doesn't have their phone to look at. And so they do a distraction technique. The distraction technique, the old days was you give them this box of crayons and the coloring sheet, and they sit them down and they're supposed to color, and they have to fill in everything. And then I teach the staff, if the kid brings the paper back, I say, well, you have to use every crayon in the box, and the box is like this big. And so then the kid is distracted during that time. So my rule of thumb is I want to plan my systems that only require one person. I want my systems to require one person. And then if another person's available, they can be used.
Yeah.
So my systems always, if I'm the only person there, I can run everything. So that would be because you're the only one there sometimes, right, Marty? So that if you're there, that's usually a distraction technique, not like you're fighting, although that's a good, actually kind of similar, right? You give them the crayons, you give them the sheet, and they do it, or you tell the parent, well, what would they like to do? Can you give them your phone? Do they have a game they want to play? They can do that instead. I don't love that just because that's kind of, I don't love that Jonathan hate, but it sometimes that's the best thing too. And then the parent doesn't have their phone in their hand either to get distracted.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, the going back to what you were saying, Master Me, I want to point out just philosophically, and that's probably the wrong word, just from experience, two different ways of looking at the same issue. Master Smith has been so good over so many years at developing a multi-level bench strength within each of the schools that he tends to focus on. I have all these other people that are our support staff, because I have the leadership team, I have the parents who are very helpful in the school, I have this whole support mechanism. So therefore, I have these people to do everything from run a booth to watch the kids to, teach another introductory class while I'm in the intro lesson, where Master Moody's perspective tends to be, I don't want to rely on having more people in the school. I want to have the rotating curriculum in place so one person can teach the class. I want to have the systems in place in the enrollment process that I don't need to rely on another human. And both are exactly what you should learn from that is you want all the systems to be as simple as humanly possible and as clear and easy as humanly possible. And what I tend to find with us teaching staff is we tend to create complicated systems that then they do like a third of what you wanted them to do, rather than create simple systems where you can get them to do most of it, right? And as far as in your school, it comes back to the question Mr. Cash had earlier on, is I've got to develop that bench strength. I've got to be, from the day somebody enrolls, but certainly through they're into the leadership program, they're developing them. I want to get year 2, year 3, year 4 students all thinking in terms of they're there to help contribute, they're there to help teach, they're there to help support the school, and creating that culture where they don't view themselves as the customer so much as an engaged martial artist there to share martial arts with the community, with new people coming in, makes all the difference in the world on how they look at things. And by the way, the more you create that level of contribution and ownership among your senior students, the more they give you a little bit of slack if things don't exactly go their way, the more they view it as their responsibility to fix things that may be a little bit sloppy on any given day. And the less, if you ever have first or second degree black belts that are whining regularly about details going on around about the school, it means their thinking isn't right about the way their role is in the school. Does that make sense for everybody? But that really is what you want to be developing, is you want to be developing that leadership structure so that they're really, really digging in and contributing at all times. going back to Scott, going back to what you were talking about the live event, Willie, we were just looking at your stats a minute ago, and as the feedback that I had on it, and let's get everybody's take. When we went through the numbers, Jason, and I'll get Scott and Amanda, I'll jump in here several, but Jason, what was your lifetime value per student looking at now?
We're at, I think 375.
Yeah, that's the average monthly
Yes.
value. When you look at it from a
Lifetime.
if you look at it from lifetime, in other words, if you took, say, last year's number, total gross divided by total number of enrollments, what was that number looking at?
I don't remember that off the top of my head. I have to go back through the notes. I can try to pull up the notes and try to figure that out.
But Willie, as a comparison, his average monthly revenue per student is 375. So take the total gross, which is what was it last month, Jason?
Last month was 84.
84. So you take 84,000 divided into the active students. How many active students are you at now?
We're at 262.
Okay. So you take that 262 students divided into 84,000. That's, I presume, that 375 number. So to give you one benchmark comparison, Amanda Olson, your dropout rate has always been the thorn in your side. What has it been? Where is it at now?
5 years ago, we were just churning, and it was about 15-16% just in and out. And then now this year, this month we're at 3%. We've hit some 1 or 2%, and just really excited about being able to fix that.
Yeah. But so you're trending towards the 1 to 2% a month dropout rate being the norm.
That's what we were training for. And last year we were looking at, it'd be anywhere between 5 and 8. And so this year we're looking between 1 and 4, so definitely everything that we're doing is making steps in the right direction. So
excellent. And Willie, that was the conversation we were having earlier, is going from 6.1, 6.2, relatively simple to get it down to 3% a month dropout rate. And then what's doable is to get somewhere between 1 and 2% a month dropout rate. I think I've seen 2 schools in my life that were in the 0.5, 0.5%, 0.7%, something like that, per month dropout rate. One of them was Buzz Durkin, and the other one was one of his students. But in looking at that a lot, I never figured out any way to possibly replicate that. It was mostly just Buzz and how polite, nice, convivial, it was really about people more so than it was about systems in that case.
And Master Oliver, it's also important to understand when you're tracking your ROI on your advertising spending, what is your return on that investment? That number of students that you're getting each month, when you're calculating how much that student is worth, it's that initial down payment plus the first month's tuition. So that's, for most of our schools, anywhere from $600 to $800, not just the first month's tuition, because they always have that down payment or initial investment that they're putting on top of their first month's tuition. We saw some of our schools that were dragging their feet on that. They were trying to say, oh, you don't have to put a down payment if you do it today, kind of thing. In other words, just first month's tuition. So you got to make sure that you are getting that, it's normally $800. And if you finalize your paperwork today, you get half off is only $400. Or some people were doing the 1,000 and it's $500. Some were doing $600 and it's $300 today. So whatever you want to charge, there is that little playroom in there to make sure you're getting anywhere from $500 to $700 down.
Yeah, absolutely. Hey, Travis, do you have any questions of the team here today?
No, I'm mostly just kind of listening and, playing catch up. I guess kind of what we talked about is just the I don't know if anybody experienced a higher notional rate in the summertime. I know this month we've had 20 appointments and 4 shows.
Ooh,
And I just don't have an answer for that.
Where
I
did
don't-
they come from?
From a few places, but mostly online, the majority online. But
And my answer to that when it's online is, and there's automated systems, et cetera, that we should be using, but nothing beats a phone call within the first minute of catching an opt-in. And next is the video that you send them that kind of outlays your program and what the intro is going to be like, and you walk them through the school. And so now they're a lot more comfortable with what's going on. And now they see your school, they've met your instructors, they've seen the facility, and now they're a lot more comfortable or maybe committed into coming in. And you can send those not just to your appointments, but also to your leads that didn't make an appointment. And it can sometimes spur that, that next step to them to get to make an appointment. But for the ones who made an appointment, it'll get them to show up too.
yeah, we always send them that video.
That's good.
Um,
Can you,
we always,
can you post that video or send me that video so
sure.
we can see how it looks?
Mhm.
Okay.
well, let me expand on that, Travis. I think it was Scott mentioned, buddy referral events and so forth. And this is off your topic a little bit, but summer is really, really, really good for the kids market, getting their buddies, their friends, their, all of their group to come into the school for all kinds of special, interesting, wacky, different things. Because they're all looking for something to do, and they're not, in most cases in school from 8 to 3 and then having homework, right? And summer is bad for, I interact with somebody today and they're going to go to Disney for 2 weeks, and then I'm trying to get them re-engaged after they go to Disney. And if I schedule the appointment 2 or 3 weeks out, it's a lot flakier than I get them in immediately, right? So the downside of summer is you have people kind of in and out of town a lot, and you really want to at first contact get them in immediately, because at least if they've been in once, even if you didn't get them enrolled once, it's easier to get them back in, even if they're out of town for a week or two, than it is if you haven't got them in at all, right? From a standpoint of your show rate, I've never seen that particularly made any difference, as far as, if you're on the phone with them and they schedule an appointment, 99.9% of the time they know whether they're in town, out of town, what else is going on in their schedule. Although, to be fair, parents' schedules get a little crazier because it's not the routine of school. There's this summer camp, there's this play date, there's this other thing. So it's a little harder for them to manage. So I never have seen that the show rate declines in having a personal conversation and going through and checking their calendar. What I have seen is sometimes the sales process gets elongated, and almost by definition, the longer it goes, the less likely you are to get them enrolled. Right? Even if they contacted you now, made an appointment for 3 weeks, the likelihood of them showing up in 3 weeks declines precipitously compared to today. I've seen people do, movie promotions. They get so busy, the first 3 days that they start scheduling people 2 and 3 weeks out. That's always a disaster, because no matter what you do, schedule them that far out, the show rate is weaker. So
that's not summer dependent. That's all the time dependent. But the summer,
correct.
they may tend to schedule further out. I mean, I guess that's the question, Travis. Were a lot of your guys scheduled further out more than they normally are?
No, they're usually scheduled within 1 to 2 days.
Yeah, so I wouldn't see that summer had much to do with it, if any. There may be something deeper buried in there, which is why Master Smith is talking about texting them and emailing them a walkthrough video of what the introductory process is going to be like, texting them and emailing them, testimonial videos, getting direct mail into the mail, even if you have a tight appointment. If nothing else, welcome. We're happy to have you in, and perhaps something more robust and substantive. The more you can incorporate all of that stuff, even in today's digital communication era, the more times I can get something in the mail to somebody, even if it likely is going to hit after when they're likely to be in, the better off I am. Amanda, you put together that beautiful shock and awe box, and my only comment is why not mail them to people who made an appointment rather than waiting until they enroll, just because the more stuff you get in front of them early on, the more likely you are to build a relationship with them.
Yeah.
Scott, were you going to say something?
Yeah.
I had a quick question. Speaking of buddy events, and if you don't want to comment.
No, go ahead.
I'm just curious. I get emails for Toby Milroy's stuff, and he has a whole package. It basically looks like the marketing Parthenon in a box with ads and scripts and stuff ready to go. I think you've done stuff with him in the past. It looked pretty good. I was just kind of wondering what your thoughts were.
I've done a lot with Toby. In fact, I was just distracted texting with Toby back and forth a minute ago. Yeah, Toby's background is he and his partner were in ATA school when they became a client with me, and he was doing about $17,000 a month. And the story we used to use constantly was Toby's, which was he was doing about $70,000 a month. He signed up. He was learning, wasn't implementing anything. And then 6 months later, he finally implemented the stuff that he's picking up and jumped up to like 65,000 immediately. And then kind of went from there. And then when I acquired NAPNA, basically I put him in charge of it. That whole venture didn't work out very well for a number of reasons. It's one of, my next book will probably be titled, seemed like a good idea at the time. But I have not and never have had anything even slightly less than glowing to say about Toby. What you do get, honestly, with all of the materials that were a part of NAPNA when I acquired it, most of them, even after I dug into it and Toby dug into it, is with all of those organizations, they have to cater to the mediocre middle rather than cater to the level that we are all at this point, right? Because you don't find anybody who's rounded up the top 1% or the top 5% of the industry the way we have. So, the problem tends to be is what might be a blinding flash of the of genius to somebody who's doing 7,000 a month, to you is going to look a lot retread and rehashed over stuff that that we've done a lot. But yeah, I have nothing but glowing things to say about Toby. Their Atlas software, I've talked to Toby about it a number of times. I honestly don't have an opinion about it other than Toby's in charge of it because I really haven't done anything hands-on with it. So, he went from working with me with NAPNA to working for YK Kim doing a big software project, which was Atlas software. And the company has a very high level of focus on transported after school care. So YK Kim's base operation was at the time 50% Korean owned schools, most of whom were doing transport after school care, and their stuff was developed around that format to give you feedback. So that reminds me, Master, maybe we should probably have Toby on with us again sometime soon. We've had him. He and I were just texting back and forth. He wants me to be on a podcast he's launching, and I do a column for their magazine, and we're relaunching Martial Arts Professional, and was going to do some stuff back and forth with their magazine and with Rev Marketing, as well as
I got the Go-To Karate magazine right there.
there you go. There with Amanda Olson on the cover.
Yep, Amanda Olson featured on the cover. If you guys haven't seen the online version, you should be getting an email for it.
If I was if I was going to give it one critique, I wouldn't make all of the articles in reversal.
Yeah, that's what I said that too.
Yeah, because all the articles are black background, white text, which make it extremely hard to read. But anyway, where were we? So I haven't seen it, Scott. You know, I'm sure there's some good stuff in there.
Oh,
And-
just from what I saw, you know, I've seen many of the, you know, when you issue those marketing Parthenon lists, you know, there's like an internal event, an external event, mailings, da 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 da. And that seems like what I don't know, I don't know if you guys collaborated, because that seems like what he has. It's like $300 a month, but it's all done for you. Here are the graphics, here are the scripts. So I don't know, it's just maybe for these guys who.
I would not suggest. I mean, I'll talk to Toby about what they're doing. I think that's really a retread of the NAPNA stuff, and you have access to all the old NAPNA material. Most of it in our context isn't very helpful, but you do have access to. I don't know. You have the best 5 years worth of 15 years worth of content easily available, and all the graphics are easily available through the print store. And that's basically what we do with the print store is we took the best of 15 years worth of material, ash canned about 90% that was just horrible, updated some of the stuff. What we never did and really shouldn't do, you know, with any level of integrity, is create ads that were testimonial based with testimonials, because I never wanted to make up testimonials or have, you know, a school student, a student who, you know, is training in Texas, you know, show up on a testimonial in New Jersey, for instance. So we never did, you know, what would be to me the most powerful piece of it, which is create real powerful testimonial stuff. Just ethically, I always felt that was things the schools needed to create internally.
And it's easy enough to do.
Yeah. But whether, you know, like I said, you've got full access to, at least 5 years worth of that material. Just, you know, we've got all of the old NAPNA content online. It's accessible through the member site. The print center's accessible through the member site. We don't talk about it very much because at your level, it's not very helpful. You know, including the ambassador program is on the site. There's 2 or 3 other, internal referral event programs that we carried over from the old NAPNA materials that were pretty useful. Toby may have done that program. I don't remember, Bob. I know I didn't, but that wasn't legacy holdover. And to be fair, most of the legacy holdover stuff really was junk. I was disappointed in the quality of legacy content there. I'm not sure that's a good answer for you, Scott, but yeah. I mean, mostly all that used to be useful for clip art, and we have, again, ton of that stuff is digitally available to you to do anything you want with. And nowadays, Shutterstock and so forth have lots of clip art. I think what we are seeing online on your website and so forth is you'd be better off not to be using clip art. You'd be better off to be using students of you in your classroom and your parents. Clip art starts looking like clip art pretty quick. It looks generic. And a mistake I see made is hiring somebody to do a website or somebody giving you a templated website. I know Rev, when they create a website, they build it from scratch from the ground up. But I'll speak for Rev, and correct me if I'm wrong. I'm sure their biggest challenge is getting good artwork and good video and good personalized content from the school they're building a website from, and then having to revert to standard stuff with it then makes you look like everybody else.
Yeah, that's very important. It used to be that well-tested photos about 3 or 4 years ago, well-tested photos that we would use, we wouldn't use client artwork because it was not, it wasn't as good as like well-tested photos, but Google's indexing all the photos and you want to use unique artwork. So we want good artwork from you. And then it gets all retagged and everything. And that's why, cookie cutter websites don't work and usually built up from template. I just reviewed somebody's website yesterday and it was all, really, really poorly done. And that's pretty typical.
Yeah. And by the way, the mistake I see people make is they have pictures of an empty school, right? So all of a sudden I have pictures of my school on the website and there's no human beings there. or they have you as the instructor talking about how excited we're going to have you in and into the school, and they film it in off hours when nobody is there. I think both of those are a big mistake. I'd much rather see, if you're going to do a talking walkthrough, have it be when classes are going on, preferably have it be when intro and beginning classes are going on. The solving the audio problem with noise in the background is easy nowadays. For $40, you can get a decent lavalier mic that just plugs into your iPhone or connects through Bluetooth. That is easy to solve. And for most of that stuff, I would say it's worth everybody's time just to get somebody who's a halfway decent photographer, or just get your newest iPhone out and do it. But do a walkthrough of the school, do some a bunch of off the cuff, on the fly parent testimonials, and get pictures. But make sure the pictures are organized looking, smiling kids in class. Don't do Buzz Durkin, who I mentioned before as being the best I've ever seen on referrals, is also the worst I've ever seen on marketing. He still has his website that he's got this beautiful school he built out, and it's a 360-degree walkthrough of an empty school. So you see nicely polished wood floors and one thing or another, but there's no classes going on. There's no students in place. There's no smiling faces. That, be aware of what that perception is. And Scott, as far as the events done, that type stuff, we know what works, right? Is really what the excuse for the event is, doesn't make much difference. But we know what works is you want to get permission slips. You want to make an appointment on the way in the door. So you want to make sure you have name, contact information, that parents are required to be there. And when they come into the event, you make an appointment on the way in the door rather than waiting until afterwards. The death knell is only getting like name and email or name and phone number, and then trying to call them after the fact. The important thing is full contact information. Make the appointment before the event starts. Get an appointment with 100% of the people for follow-up. And then it's all about promotions. And the actual physical stuff, the flyers you put up, the signs, all that stuff, is probably 5% of the results of any event. The results of the event is putting your hand on the shoulder of every parent while making eye contact and confirming they're going to be there, explaining what it is, and so forth. It's all the one-on-one conversations combined with creating a lot of excitement and energy in classes about it. Does that make sense? So I do think that schools get really fixated on all the stuff that matter least, and kind of miss the absolute most important pieces that that make those things work well. Well, good. Before we run out of time, hey, Bob, remind us all of what our date is in October for our next live meeting.
It is October
12th through the 15th, I think.
There you go. There you go.
Got it.
12th through the 15th. Same schedule as our most recent one. We'll do a quick start, which is not you guys, on Thursday, and we'll do leadership mastery on Friday, Saturday, and then on Sunday we'll do our $1 Million crew. The last meeting had a relatively low turnout because of affluence. It turned out we had people in Europe, we had people in the Virgin Islands, we had people in all points of the world other than in Colorado, as well as some organization events that happen to be scheduled at the same time, some tournaments and high-level black belt testings and so forth. But do plan on that now. Put that on your calendar. This one will be in Colorado, and then I'll be diligently working on some interesting experiences for next year, as well as the schedule for next year. Any last question or thought before we call it a day?
Really quick, I
Go
posted
ahead.
something. Yep. Sorry, I posted something about a pop card. I'm not sure if you saw that. I posted to the group. So it's a card, and kind of like a business card. And then you go up to one of your customers, and say, hey, we'd love to have a 5-star review. Would you be willing to give us one? And then you just tap their card, and it brings them the page. And it's really simple, really easy. We just ordered one, so people might want to check that out for extra testimonials.
So it's an NFC transmission of the web page.
I believe so. Yes.
Yes. And you can do that with QR code as well. Jason, the other application for that, there's companies that make everything from wristbands to little table displays, all kinds of different iterations of that, business cards. The other application of that is you're out at a live event
Yes.
and to share your contact record. So not the Google review, but you use it to share the contact record, and then they put it in their phone. Which can also be done with QR code. And again, one of the nice things about the pandemic, if you want to come up with a nice thing, is people learned how to use QR codes.
And all the devices started using them.
Yeah,
The-
that's right. That's right.
on the devices.
A nice confluence of events, but the NFC devices are great too. So again, you can use it for any purpose, but in this case, you're using it to get 5-star Google reviews. So they touch their phone and they give you a review. And the other application, which I like a lot, is you tap them and you put their contact record in their phone. Willie, did you have any questions of the gang before we ring off today?
No, not today. Thank you for everybody for sharing.
Yeah. And did we end up with a follow-up time?
Yeah.
Yes, sir. Today,
Oh, okay. Okay.
later today, and we'll be on this Zoom link, Willie.
Okay.
So you're going to do death by Zoom. You know that I'm booked from 2 to 3 my time, right? Okay. Just making sense, making sure. Okay. Okay. Well, that works. On that note, we'll call it a day. Travis, we were going to chat for a second and then call it a day.
All right, guys. Good work.
Did we lose Travis?